Oh, yay. So happy to be back with you, Dana, and
Aw.
exploring Uranus in Gemini. And it's going retrograde on September 5th. It's coming up. So, depending on when you're hearing this, but it might be about to go retrograde, or maybe it's already gone retrograde. And then it's going to go back into Taurus on November 27th. And then it'll go direct on February 3rd. And then it'll go back into Gemini on April 25th. So we'll talk a little bit about the Taurus piece of it because there's just a little bit left of that happening. But the main feature of what we want to bring through right now is around the Gemini piece. And so a couple things. One is Uranus is all about change. We could say it's the great change agent. And it doesn't care how the change comes about, it just wants to make sure the change comes about. So the more we resist the change, the more difficult it can be. The more we go with it, the easier it can be. It can still be a little challenging and disruptive and like, oh, am I really going to get through this? And is it really taking me to a better place? I don't know because you can't tell because
You
it's
can't
such a
tell.
big mystery, right?
It's just a wild ride. It's
It's
best
a
just
wild
put your
ride.
hands in there.
Yeah. And that would be for Uranus in any sign it would go into. It's going to be in Gemini for 7 years, except for that little short time from November to February when it's back in Taurus. But Gemini is also a trickster energy. So
It's
so
playing with you right now. It's like when you first put it off, you put November 27th, and then now and then you just said it's going to be in Gemini from or from Taurus from November to
seven.
February, but it's until April. So it's already playing with this.
Well, no, it goes direct in February, and then it doesn't
Right.
go back into Gemini until April 25th.
25th.
So
Yeah. But watch out. I mean,
right.
all bets are
And what's
off.
really true anyway? How do we know?
How do we know?
But so September 5th, it goes retrograde. It goes back into Taurus on November 7th. It goes direct on February 3rd in Taurus, goes back into Gemini on April 25th. So hopefully
There it
that
is. There's
that's
the exact dates.
uh,
Rounded them in.
now the other thing that's been pretty amazing about all of this is that Uranus is right with the Pleiades. I think it goes retrograde at 1 degree and 20, almost a degree and a half of Gemini. And the Pleiades are at 29 Taurus and 0 degrees of Gemini. So it's super close. And it's going to come back across exactly all the stars of the Pleiades. And then it'll go direct and go back across them all again. And so this is pretty spectacular. Now, the thing about the Pleiades is that, well, we'll talk a little bit more about them, just to say that this is one of the star asterisms that cultures across the planet paid close attention to. So we
Very
know this
close
is
attention.
significant and this is
Yes.
important. But maybe before we go there, and also just this idea of the trickster energy, because it was, I think, 1972 when the first of the Pleiades, one of the stars of the Pleiades, I want to say Pleione, what went into Gemini.
Mm,
And then,
mm.
and then there's been ones that have followed, and then there's going to be like three more that follow after that. And they'll all be at 0 degrees Gemini by 2041, November of
Interesting.
2041. The last one goes into Gemini. So
Interesting.
but there's this balance
Mm.
between the Gemini, Taurus, Gemini energies in within the Pleiades, where Uranus happens to be going back and forth right now.
Wow. Wow.
Which means we need to pay attention.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. Uranian energy is very much about revolution for evolution. It's always about our evolution, creating the changes for our evolution. And sometimes it doesn't look like that at all because we're so resistant to the changes.
Resistance. Yeah. 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 That's the
So
key.
anything
Not to
you want to
resist.
add about that, but also I know you have some things to say about what's happened in the past when Uranus has been in Gemini and Taurus.
Well, I think I love what you said about the Pleiades because I know living in Hawaii for some time that the Hawaiian culture has the Kumulipo, which is their creation chant. and it all comes from the Pleiades. And you were mentioning that, was it the Mayans
The
as well?
Mayans, yes. Yeah. So the Mayans were tracking the Pleiades sun conjunction. And so the sun will conjunct the Pleiades about every 26,000 years for a period of time, at minimum of 144 years, but really it could be longer than that. It's happening now. And when it was at the time when the sun was entering Gemini, um, the which represents the days of no shadows, where the sun is directly overhead at certain latitudes. And like say, for example, the pyramid Kukulcan, which is a serpent pyramid,
Mhm.
there's no shadows cast on that day. So if you stand straight, you cast no shadow. If you put a
Love
stick in the ground, it will cast no shadow when the sun is directly overhead. And when it's with the Pleiades, they saw the Pleiades as a Stargate portal, and the sun was opening that portal to go to other realms and dimensions. And so that's happening now every year in May. Pretty amazing that the sun is conjunct the Pleiades, and that was super important to the Mayans. So here we have Uranus conjunct the Pleiades
And
for
it moved into Gemini right about then.
right. It was in, I
So,
guess it was in July of this year
yeah.
it moved in, but the idea being that, and because it's with the Pleiades, I mean, zero Gemini is with the Pleiades. So the Pleiades are a big player in this whole story of what's going on right now. And Uranus is all about how are we going to create, I feel like, massive evolutionary change that we don't necessarily know what those changes need to look. What is it going to take to break down the old structures? What is it going
And
to take to disrupt everything that we've known to bring in something new that is more in alignment with who we really are rather than who we have thought we are?
or as a culture, because I feel like the Pleiades are the birthplace of our culture in a way. There are so many, and I know you've researched this greatly, so many indigenous cultures that see the Pleiades as their place that they came from, their place that they track, or like the Hawaiians, like I was saying, that's where they came from, and they use the Pleiades as a strong navigational tool as well. So it's I feel like anything that conjuncts the Pleiades at the time puts emphasis on culture, on where we come from. What do we need to do to shift to a higher octave? Because I feel like Gemini, that's one of its very strong agendas is shifting us to a higher octave. It's also like the birthplace of culture in the wheel of the zodiac as well, right? Like, you know, Aries is about the birth of the self, and Taurus is about the birth of security, and then Gemini comes along with the birth of being social, having that sociability and
And creative expression and playful, trickster, fun kind of energy.
right,
Not so
siblings,
serious. It's like it could be a lot more fun if we can allow ourselves.
if we can allow that.
Yes.
True story. So
Yes.
with so with Uranus conjunct the Pleiades, it's like it's time. I feel like there's going to be this interesting revolution for evolution, as you say. I love that. In our culture. And what are we going to embrace going forward? Where do we want to steer this rocket ship that we're on that's hurtling through space?
And is it up to us to determine where to direct it, or is it up to the greater divine intelligence
Exactly.
that is
Exactly.
orchestrating all of this to direct it? Because if we think we know where we want to go, and this is very Uranian, we don't necessarily know at all. We just might think we know, and where we get redirected to may be more amazing than what we could possibly imagine.
Possibly imagine. Yeah. 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 Any of us that have gone through a massive Uranus transit, and both Kaylin and I were talking about that, know that you just gotta go with the flow on it. Or because you're gonna get directed.
Surrender. It's going to
Surrender.
where
You're
it's
gonna get
taking
directed.
you, and you don't have any control over where it's taking you.
But if you stop resisting, it's kind of magical.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
very magical.
magical. I mean, it's an amazing thing. So
Yeah.
yes, agreed.
Yeah, it could disrupt your whole life, and you think something you've built, been working towards, trying to create. I mean, I had that happen to me, and was a mother of three small children. Found out my husband was having an affair the day that Uranus conjuncted my moon, and my whole world was turned upside down. And I was absolutely terrified about what was going to happen. And then when it was all said and done, and I looked back, it was like that was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Exactly. I know. I had something similar like that the day Uranus conjuncted my Mars in Aries. I could no longer do the profession I was doing at the time. I literally, I was a massage therapist. I loved it. I did not want to give it up, even though my body was giving me hints, you need to give this up. And I got this huge case of bicep tendonitis, which was career ending. And it was this huge shift in my awareness. I went from being like sucked into this rut to being liberated. And I have been not so locked into my fixed grand cross in my chart ever since. It like gave me this portal of mutability that has been amazing ever since, and it has
I
taught me
love that you said liberated because I feel like that's what Uranus is about, freedom. How do we get to a place where we're free to be who we truly are and not who we think we're supposed to be? That's
exactly.
really what it's all about. I love that you said that. Yes,
Yeah.
we're being liberated, and it may look really messy and traumatic and challenging and difficult, and especially if we're attached to how we think we want it to be
Yeah. Or how we think it's going to look.
or how we think it should be or or
Any of
how
those Capricornian things, they're not going to fly in Gemini. I'm just letting you know right now. Gemini is the antidote to Capricorn.
and the thing about Gemini that I love, its trickster energy, is also about freedom. You know, Uranian energy is about freedom, Gemini's about freedom, and not to take it so seriously, to have fun.
That is the trick, Kaylin. You must have a good sense of humor. Anytime something massive is in Gemini, like Uranus, particularly Uranus, you must keep a really healthy sense of humor.
Yes.
Agreed.
And willingness to play and just to like okay,
Mhm.
let's just experiment with how this is so that this is
Well, we're
collapsing.
going this direction. Let's go this direction.
I often like this idea of like you know maybe you're headed down the highway to a certain destination and then suddenly you're taken off the highway, detoured into some place that you don't even know where it
Have
is.
we've all had that experience.
But it winds up being you meet the right people, everything falls into place. It's the best thing that could have possibly happened, even though maybe it delayed you or you didn't even get to the destination that you thought you were headed towards. That's very Uranian.
Very Uranus, but you end up in this magical place. That's the thing that I think that is really important to remember about Uranus and Gemini. Gemini is a very magical sign. And Uranus is a very magical planet, even though it's the great disruptor. Yeah, but it's the great disruptor in order to bring about this liberation that we were talking about earlier. And so it's kind of exciting if you can let go of the rhetoric of resisting disorder, resisting, reinvention. Because
Yeah.
this is totally a place of reinvention, particularly with Uranus and Gemini. So Gemini is the most mutable of mutable signs because it's mutable air. So you just don't know what's going to happen. And then Uranus, which is the most revolutionary of all the planets, it was discovered in 1781 by a telescope. So it was discovered by invention because it's the first planet that is undiscernible to the naked eye. And so for thousands of years, the ancients thought the end of our solar system was Saturn. Saturn, boundaries, limitations. This is it. This is the container. And then suddenly in 1781, when somebody got I can't remember the person who discovered it, Uranus, got a telescope on Uranus and went, oh my God, there's another planet in our solar system. Can you imagine the rock against the hen house on this? I mean, they for thousands of years they thought they had the edge of our solar system figured out. They no longer had it. It revolutionized astronomy. It revolutionized astrology. To this day, there are still some issues among astrology communities on what they call the modern planets, Uranus out. And, and it's just, it revolutionized our thought of who we were, where we were, what is capable, how can we bring things in, how can we see ourselves, oh, wait a minute. The, the whole solar system could be bigger,
Expand
right? I mean,
of our perception of reality. That is what Uranus is here to bring, is how do we expand and have the bigger picture and get to the cosmic perspective. That's what Uranus is all about. That's what it's trying to bring through. Yeah.
perfect. Yes, yes, yes. You nailed it. And this also happened during the American Revolution. Shock and awe. It also happened during the French Revolution, happened shortly after that. So it's like this, like you said, this innovative freedom seeker. It isn't just about revolution for chaos. It's revolution, like you said, for evolution.
Yes, I love that. The USA birth chart, Uranus is around, I don't know, eight, I want to say 8 degrees of Gemini. So there's going to be another Uranus return coming up in the next few years. But that's right. The American Revolution was happening when Uranus was in Gemini, and it was all about freedom. How we want to be free from the oppressive rule of the past.
Exactly. And this civil war happened when Uranus was in Gemini, and it was also about freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom of slavery, freedom
Yes.
of enslaving others.
Yeah.
And so that was another one. And then the World War II was also about Uranus and Gemini, but this was also about freedom. This was freeing the Jews, freeing Europe from this imprisonment, from this madman who
Right.
was killing, which was doing racial cleansing. And we banded together as a globe. It brought together as a globe to overthrow this incredible fascist that was literally killing off cultures.
Yeah.
And so it was like
And
a
women and
huge.
children, no regard for any of, like, it was just like kill them all.
Mhm, exactly. So it's very much about the revolution, and I can see each of these times that we've mentioned about the revolution of personal enslavement, like on a cultural level, uh, thought enslavement. So revolutionizing that, which Gemini is very much about our thoughts and how we think. So on a personal level, Gemini, Uranus and Gemini can also be about revolutionizing how we perceive what's going on around us as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's beautifully said. I love that. And so if we think about, that Uranus has been in Taurus for the last 7-ish years, and then it's making this dip into Gemini, and then it's going back into Taurus in November, and then it'll go back into Gemini next year, and then it'll be there for about 7 years. So we're just getting a taste of it now. And then another, like a final wrap up of the whole Taurian aspect. So if we think about, so what's Uranus liberating in the Taurian realms? And I feel
Good
like,
question.
yeah, I feel like the challenge with Taurus can be that it can get very rigid and stuck in a certain.
Oh, amen, sister. I'm a Taurus. I know all about that. Our first response is to set our cloven foot. I always know my first response is going to be no. And then I have to go, okay, that was the first response. What's the second response going to be? And I get to choose. This time I get to choose. Go ahead.
Not going with the automatic
All
response.
right, not going with the automatic response.
Want to keep things the same. We don't want it to change.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
But Uranus is going to bring change.
Yeah.
And the
And
more we resist, the more painful it is.
the opportunity is to trust the process. We may
Ooh,
not know why this process is unfolding in the way that it is. We may not have a clue. It may seem like the most chaotic and ridiculous thing ever. But if we can trust the process and allow it to unfold, in whatever way it's unfolding. And then it doesn't have to be as painful. I mean, it probably will still be painful because we have to let go of old ways of
Taurus. No,
no, no.
don't. Ah.
But we could imagine these last weeks, like when it goes in back into Taurus, that it's also a chance to help, because really the Taurus mysteries most want to experience the pleasure of life, what it
Exactly.
means to be embodied, what it
100%.
means to really receive that life force energy in the most ecstatic way possible, in
Mhm.
the most pleasurable way possible, without doing
Comfort.
harm to
Yeah.
others, not doing any harm to others, but to experiencing that ecstatic bliss in the physiology and in our body,
Right.
because we're we're humans. We have an opportunity to experience something that other beings don't necessarily get to do. And I mean, I remember hearing this back in the 70s when they were saying that if you have a human body, you have been given a gift beyond measure,
Ah,
that there are souls, maybe even angels and other beings that are waiting to get here. They want to have this experience so they can experience being going through an evolution
sensory, a
in a
sensory
physical
experience.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
so how, maybe we can focus on this idea of how do we really invite the pleasure of life, of beauty, of being the epicure of of pleasure and beauty and all the things that this body and this life have to offer us, when we can appreciate that and have gratitude for that. And so maybe we can take that to another level within ourselves during the last,
Definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. I feel like this retrograde back into Taurus, as we know, with a retrograde is a review, renew, regenerate your thoughts. So, and with Uranus being the great disturber that brings about evolution, we're getting to get it. Uranus is moving back into Taurus and giving us another opportunity to review what was Taurus and Uranus for us personally. How did that re how did that recreate our lives for us? I mean, it's like some of the examples of Taurus of Uranus and Taurus is it like we noticed during Uranus and Taurus, which was COVID, right? We all talk about pre and post COVID now. I mean, it was a huge watermark year.
yeah,
And we saw disruption in our supply chains. We saw, the huge innovation in our supply chains because of this disruption in our supply chain. We saw, the anti-hustle movement start coming about. So Taurus is, taking back, like, we don't have to be in a hurry all the time. We don't have to be working so hard all the time. We're losing pleasure by, just completely being in the machine, so there was this huge drawback on that. You saw this huge movement of people going outdoors, going out and reconnecting with the earth.
yeah,
These extreme hikers down to the people who just are really learning to connect. And even though COVID was this huge, like, wow, what the heck, happened to us, it also insisted that we get outside because that was the only place that you could socially, connect with other people.
right.
And
Or to connect with nature, even if you weren't connecting with other people, but to connect with the earth herself, and have a new relationship with her, because that is something that has been pretty much lost in our current culture.
exactly. And so while Uranus was in Taurus, we literally got pushed outside. Connect, and like I said, that was where we could connect with other people too, within 6 feet. You could, have this safe conversation outside. And it also absolutely restructured jobs. We saw the nomadic Zoom culture come about because people got pushed outside their offices, got pushed out into a whole different environment, and this was also the time of the development of AI. I mean, the birth time of AI was the last time it was when Uranus was in Aries, but we really saw it start developing during Taurus, and now we're seeing it absolutely
It's gonna explode.
blow up with
It's already
with
exploding and blowing up. Yeah.
with Uranus and
Already,
Gemini, without
already on
a
a
doubt.
faster track than it's ever been.
And why it's been in Taurus, or why Uranus has been in Taurus, this has been when AI has become sellable. It's become a sellable thing that we can, that you can bring security, can bring money. It's a whole new form. Cryptocurrency bloomed during Uranus and Taurus. Yeah, the Siri, Alexa was birthed during Uranus and Taurus. And Uranus always represents innovation too, because if you think about how the telescope found Uranus, so there is definitely innovation involved with Uranus as well. So with the Taurus, so we're taking innovation and making money with it during Uranus and Taurus. How it is about personally, tell me what you think about Uranus and Taurus has been for us personally.
That's a really good question. And it's probably different for different people based on
Sure.
wherever they're at and what they've been when they've been going through. But I feel like for me, it's been about really being able to appreciate and have gratitude for experiencing the pleasure of life and and experiencing
Mm.
greater pleasure than I've ever in my life prior.
Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah, and so that Taurian pleasure piece. Now,
Mhm.
the thing about Taurus is that it's also about learning to receive the gifts of life. How do we really receive it and embody it and appreciate it? There is an aspect of the shadow side, which is basically, I deserve that, I should get that, and I don't care what it costs other people.
Entitlement.
Yep, the entitlement aspect of it. And if it hurts other people, oh well, too bad, as long as I'm having my pleasure.
Right, right.
And it might be a kind of more fleeting pleasure, not really a
With high
sustainable,
stakes, with high
right?
stakes. Yeah.
Yeah, but what's that? What's the more embodied, sustainable experience of pleasure and being in that relationship with the earth? That's what I feel I've been getting out of this process over the last few years. And that it's okay to have a good life. And that as long as it's not harming anybody else. And the more of us that are having a good life and feeling the pleasure and gratitude for that, that's changing the world.
Exactly.
We don't have to
These little
suffer,
movements make a big
right?
up
We don't
into
have
a
to suffer because other
big.
people are suffering. We can help out in whatever ways we can, but we don't have to also suffer.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's interesting you brought that up because when I was reminiscing on Uranus and Taurus for me, and of course it passed my Taurus sun while I was in there. I had a Uranus Sun conjunction during that period. What it was for me is it was a revolutionizing of how I see work. I have Mars in the sixth house, so I have this in Aries, so I have this massive work ethic. And I always thought I had to pull myself up by my bootstraps and I had to work really, really hard to get anything done. And I just literally would work myself to the bone on anything. And what with Taurus and Uranus, what it did for me is it absolutely revolutionized how I work. I now am much more relaxed about it. I take it as it comes. I don't feel like I have to pursue work. I definitely, personally, I didn't even hear about the anti-hustle movement because I live on an isolated island out in the San Juan Islands of Washington. I mean, it didn't even get out here, but it got to me on a soul level. I felt like I was done working myself to the bone. It no longer worked for me. And I honestly am doing that now. I have I only work basically a very limited hours during the week, and I spend a lot of time. The thing that it brought for me was spaciousness to my schedule. Because with spaciousness becomes is the ultimate place of pleasure for me.
I love that, the pleasure of spaciousness. And the pleasure of being, just being,
Just
and instead of
being.
having to do to prove yourself to some outside authority or,
Mhm.
whatever that might be, whether it's a god or, a boss or whatever it might be.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And so how do we have the pleasure of being ourselves, being who we are, being within ourselves, being with the earth, being with each other? Ah, beautiful, pleasurable experience. There's
Exactly.
a statement that, which is why many of us have had challenges with receiving the pleasure of life, is that we're taught that it's more blessed to give than receive.
100%.
And the original translation, I heard a woman giving a talk on this some years ago. I can't remember her name now, so really feel bad about that. But she said that the original translation was it's more blessed to give than to take something that's not yours.
Oh, that's
And it got
interesting.
distorted or shortened down into
Yeah.
more blessed to give than receive. Receiving is just as blessed as giving. But we have been we've
Conditioned.
conditioned to believe it's not as good. And so we become all these givers and give and never really open to receive and receiving from a high vibrational place, which is with deep gratitude, with profound gratitude for what it is that we are receiving every day, the gift of being in this life. We get to.
So I think the advice we could give everybody is with Uranus dipping back into Taurus and giving us one more review on that process is how can you claim your own personal space for enjoying the earth, enjoying spaciousness, enjoying being, enjoying the simple pleasures of life without it hurting anybody, of course, with it just, and how can you receive the blessings of that? How can you bring that into your life? And, and allow it. Allow this just to be for you. It doesn't
Oh,
have to be anybody else. It doesn't have to be like you're bringing this in to give it to somebody else. What if you could just receive?
yes. What if you could allow yourself to receive and to do it with gratitude?
What if you, yeah, like just going out and laying in the grass right now. Of course, you're in Arizona. You don't lay in the
Yeah,
grass
yeah,
this
probably
time
not.
of year.
We have
We can
little
lay in the
spots of
grass up
grass
here.
around, like at the park or something, but
Go sit in the shade. The
exactly.
morning.
Right, the early morning.
But
But
get
yeah, this
outside.
idea of having a gratitude practice, and maybe you're in a place in your life where things are challenging and it's hard to feel grateful. I know I've been there, so I
Uh-huh.
can understand that. But there can still be things you're grateful for. And sometimes I think it was Sarah Ban Breathnach. She wrote a book called The Abundance Book or something. She was on Oprah Winfrey years ago.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
abundance
And
principle
she
or something
she
like
she
that.
recommended people find 5 things every day they're grateful for. And she said one of them might be that you just made it through the day. I was like, yeah, some days are like that.
Some days are like that. Yeah,
So
every day isn't
finding
going to be
finding those
perfect.
things and she recommended writing them down. But I think even just saying them to yourself of things that you're grateful for and celebrating that because from that place, more magic and miracles will happen in our life. And I think Uranus can set us up to experience miracles that we don't even know are possible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Especially when we're coming from gratitude, appreciation, we're not hanging on and trying to keep some things a certain way. We're just allowing and flowing with it all.
mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
having pleasure just thinking about it.
I know you just had your whole body just relaxed. You're just like, there it is, folks, right there. And I also think that, one of the things that I've been uh, having an epiphany along the lines of gratitude practice too recently is in our culture right now, with how fast paced it is, with all of the outer planets have moved into other signs and are in the early degrees, we're in this huge time of integration. We have to give ourselves space to take it all in. We have to give ourselves space in order to integrate what's going on right now. We have to give ourselves compassion for not being able to respond to some things the way that we thought we used to be able to. Once again, the spaciousness. And the other thing that I have found in all of this is that we have if we want to, and this is another Uranus and Taurus thing, cultivate contentment.
Yes.
It doesn't come naturally right now. There's so much chaos. There's so much stuff going on in our airwaves, as above, so below. I mean, there's so much change that we need to consciously cultivate contentment. And contentment is one of the primary objectives of Taurus. And how can you revolutionize that in your own personal life? How can you cultivate contentment for you personally? And well, you're going to get a review period here to start to, bring that to the next octave.
Yes, I love that. So we could say the pleasure of contentment, the
Hmm.
pleasure of spaciousness, the
Hmm.
pleasure of being, the pleasure of, you could add whatever you want it to be for you, and that we have this opportunity and with awareness. So what we're focusing our attention on and our intention and attention is what's going to manifest in our reality. So we want to be sure that we're focusing, and it doesn't. We can be specific, but I think it's better to keep it in the realm of magic and miracles. It's like,
I
oh,
love that so
it's
much better.
more amazing than I'm imagining right now. That I'm so open for that. It's like let's celebrate that
Let's
possibility.
celebrate that. Because, there's so much doom and gloom out there. You can look anywhere you want to and find all the doom and gloom you want to. But Uranus is a highly magical planet and it brings about so much magic. So I think we need to really focus on the magic it's going to bring. And so we get to review that back in Taurus until April 25th of next year, the cultivating of contentment. And what does that look like? And then when it moves back into Gemini, full throttle, full
We'll be ready
throttle
to fly.
forward. We have got, and this is the time that we need to make sure and bring this grounding with us from this Taurus aspect, because there's going to be so much energy coming with this. I mean, Gemini is the planet of innovation. It's the planet, or excuse me, the sign of innovation. It's itself. It's the sign of free thinking. I mean, it's uncontained error. It's like anything is possible.
Right? And
How,
the other thing just to keep in mind too is because Pluto is now in Aquarius
Mhm.
and it's in the early degrees of Aquarius. So trining the Uranian aspect in Gemini and both Gemini and Aquarius are that more expansive consciousness, new ideas, new ways of seeing things, being playful and creative and all of that. And Pluto is there to help remove anything in the way of that.
Yep. Clear it out.
Right? Which can be an uncomfortable process, honestly. It can be a
I'm
very
in a Pluto
uncomfortable
transit.
process,
It's very uncomfortable, but it's
but it's
absolutely
worth it.
transforming me. Yes.
It's so worth it once you
Huge
get,
growth period.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it brings the alchemy to the whole process. So we have an opportunity to really transform ourselves within this world. And as we transform ourselves, we're transforming the world. This is just such an amazing, magical time. So
As above, so below.
I love that.
Absolutely. This is such a huge opportunity for us all to shift. And Uranus in Gemini gives us, one of the things that I see for Uranus and Gemini going forward is it's going to change the landscape of how we learn. It's going to change the landscape of our educational systems and our communication systems. We already think we're at the top of our game with communication systems. Who knows? Some people are saying that Uranus and Gemini might bring about like some telepathic thing that we're gonna figure out. So and neuroplasticity and I mean, like hold on to your hat, because our brains are really going to really grow during this time. So make sure and get your grounding practice in place during this Uranus and Taurus.
Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you, Dana. This has been so fun, as always,
As always,
to do this with you. And we'll be back. We'll probably have more to share about this or something else, or this and something else. We don't
just
know
add
yet,
something
but
else.
just waiting to see how we get inspired. And so hopefully this was helpful and inspiring and that we can all come together with this vision of we don't know what it's going to look like, but of a world where everyone is getting to fulfill their divine intent, why they're here, and do it in ways that are magical, fun, miraculous,
Compassionate,
amazing.
compassionate, kind.
Yes, yes, loving.
Lovely.
all of
Make sure
that.
and keep
So
kind through all this, people. We
yeah,
got to stay compassionate because we're all in it together.
exactly. Beautiful way to complete this. So thank you and see you next time. Mwah.
Aloha.